Welcome to my teaching learning session. And today we are going to talk about BGLA 136 English at Workplace. Yeah. So, block one is about exploring the job market. So, last time we talked about how communication plays a role here and what kind of command and what kind of expertise should you have so that you are able to have an upper edge over the other candidates or for your personal growth as well. So, in order to explore the job market, what are the exercises that we need to undertake as at the preparatory level, right? So, let's see what are the things that we are going to cover here. First, we are going to talk about the block overview. What are the objectives? We'll do a little warm up exercise. One thing which is important here is candidate analysis. Okay, so that's something that we are going to talk about. Like when you are appearing for any job interview and you're sitting in the interview, what are the things you have to put yourself in the shoes of the person who's interviewing you or the panel which is interviewing you, so that you know what are they expecting. And a lot of background studies, a lot of background research is required to understand the expectations that the employer expects you to meet. So it is very important that you put yourself in their shoes and try to understand how it works, right? If you're going to think, because see, they have to choose out of a lot of candidates, and it could be different professions. Today we are going to focus on industries and corporate sector. We are going to take a look at that primarily, and in the next session we are going to talk about other job requirements. I mean, these are the basic things when we talk about communication. No matter which interview or which job profile are you appearing for, a common thing is to have an expertise over your communication, and how you are trying to convey something is important along with what you are communicating. Okay, so to cover the what part, there is a lot of preparation which is required in advance. For example, and these are all research based exercises. You cannot just work on your communication and go without understanding the skills that they require or without understanding the company's profile, right? So, like I said, that today we are going to look at corporates primarily and industry based services. Yeah. So, as candidates, what are the things that you need to develop, work on, and as industry, what are they expecting out of you? Okay, what is the particular? Because see, every job requires a different skill set. Okay? So you have to be an expert for the designation that you are applying for. And how is communication going to help you? Communication, as you know, is a very, very important factor when it comes to interviews, because that is how you convey yourself. And while you convey yourself, there is also a requirement for a certain level of ease that you should show. And if you are practice is the key to that. So you have to do a lot of mock interviews, right? And you have to see, knowledge gives a confidence in itself. So if you have researched well on that particular industry, along with the work that you have put into your communication, for example, you have to work on certain business jargons, or let's say terms which are specific to that industry. If you do not seem to have a hold over that, then you might not sound like a professional, because any layman could talk about stuff which might be required. But you need to learn those particular terms which are very, very specific to those industries or any industry that you apply for, right? It could be education, it could be commerce. So, how does reading comprehension? We're going to talk about reading comprehensions, because you'll see that in your book there are a lot of reading comprehension exercises that are given. And as we have covered in many, other blogs, other papers, that it is when you want to work on the communication part, it is important to work on few factors, which are first is listening, second is reading, then writing, speaking. Okay, all these portions are important. So, reading, how does it help you? It develops your comprehension skills, right? So that's why it is called reading comprehension exercises that you have been doing since school days, and all your exams. Mostly, all the exams have reading comprehension as one of its section because um, analytical skills develop when you read a lot, right? The more you read, the variety that you have, your communication, there is a direct relation. Like more knowledge you have, more confident you are on that topic, right? And next, you have to work on the vocabulary part. So let's look at the vocabulary, like I mentioned just now, that you have to look at the terms which are very, very specific to that particular industry, right? And then listening and speaking, this is another portion. Reading is a solitary activity, right? So you can sit in your room or anywhere you are comfortable and you can read and analyze. You have your own, your own ambience, your own comfort zone where you can do that. Some people are very comfortable reading at public places, some are not. So you choose your environment. Reading is an exercise that you have the privilege to choose your ambience for it, because it's a solitary activity. But when it comes to communication, so it's not one person activity. There are more than people in one person involved. So it is always between two or more people, right? So when it comes to listening and speaking, one very important thing here is that with the times that we are living in, and there is we our attention span is very short. We're going through social media, we keep on scrolling the pages, and we do not stay for anything for too long. Like for reading, you need to have a certain focus, and like I said, it is a solitary activity. Similarly, when you scroll your social media and stuff, it is also a solitary activity. But then it makes you too solitary in the sense that you do not have the convenience of choice at times because a lot of things keep popping. So your attention span gets affected because you're not making a choice of what you want to see, what you want to, what you want to go through. Sometimes there is content that you did not really hope for or are interested in, or is specific to your particular requirement or adds to your knowledge level. So the reference to this point here is that with the decrease in attention span, people have become bad listeners also, right? So to be a good listener, your attention span has to be good, your focus has to be good. You need to pay attention, you need to keep your mind, you need to be in the moment. So mindfulness becomes an important activity here when you are listening. And the more intently you listen to somebody, the more focused you are, your responses would be quite accurate and to the point, concise. So, whenever you are in the interview board, when sitting before the interview board, or even if you are doing a task where it is not something that is, and it's probably something that makes you quite self-conscious, then our listening ability gets affected. So and also if you're not very confident, then you could probably be so nervous or anxious that you do not understand what is going on, and people are asking. So it could be a question, like it happens in exams also, and even if it's a written exam, it sometimes happens that you're so much in that caught in that moment that you know something and you are not able to write it. Similarly, when it comes to interviews or comes to any kind of verbal interaction where you feel like you have been put in the spotlight. So one way to get through it is to do a lot of practice, create your comfort level with that situation. So let's say if you keep on taking a lot of interviews, keep on giving a lot of interviews, you will develop a comfort level, a certain comfort level with that particular scenario where a lot of people are sitting and they're questioning. So ask your friends to do that properly. Make a group, ask them, give them questions, and even if you don't give them questions, ask them to ask something just randomly. Okay, and you could probably try answering those questions, no matter if those are good questions or bad questions. Preferably choose people who are from your own field so that they are able to pick questions which will be relevant. Give them a brief, introduction of what you're going to apply for. So that's one way to do that. Second way would be to take the phone and record yourself. Try and see how you answer. Prepare a list of questions. Take your phone. You can do it before mirror also. The phone is better in the sense that you can go through it later on and see as an audience, as a listener, you can see how you are speaking, how you are answering, what are the flaws that you can work on, right? So that's there. Then in grammar, you have passive voice. This also we'll talk about. And in fact, we can. There is a huge grammar portion that I wish to cover. If not today, maybe in the next session we'll cover this. Writing. How do you fill a questionnaire? Then how do you brainstorm? And how will that help you? Okay. So we'll come back to that now. So let's look at the units, what we are going to cover in these units. Okay. So this blog, it equips you with basic skills required to explore the job market studies. Okay. Profiling oneself for the job, searching for the job, responding to different kinds of job advertisements. Okay. So, what are the things that you're going to cover? How do you profile yourself for the job? How do you search for the job? How do you respond to different kinds of job advertisements? And how do you prepare for the job? So, market studies. What do you first? The question here is, what do you understand by market studies? Okay, and second is, does it mean to profile oneself for the job? So this we had covered in the last session, profiling oneself for the job. How do you write your profile for yourself? How do you write it for somebody else, right? And third is, how do you search for the job? That's another very important aspect. Responding to different kinds of job advertisements. Okay. So there are so many. I mean, one might get overwhelmed with the number of job advertisements which are there. So how to go through it in a systematic manner, right? So organization skills come to a very important role, to play a very important role here, and that is something that we are going to understand how to do that. Okay. And then preparing for the jobs after job advertisements, how to look at them, how to sort them out, how do you prepare for the job. Now, first is profiling oneself for the job. Okay, so objectives are about the qualities which are necessary at the workplace. The first unit that we are going to talk about, and we have already covered this, so I'm just going to go through it briefly. So, what are the qualities which are necessary at workplace? What do you think? So it is also very dependent on the field that you are going to apply in, right? And that you need to figure out that if you were the employer and if you were looking at this particular designation, not from an employee point of view, look at everything from an employer's point of view, right? So if you were an employer, what would you require as the skills that you would need for that particular designation, not only for that particular industry. You have to look at the industry, of course, you have to look at the market trends, and then you also need to look at the qualities which that particular designation requires, right? So you could be very good at something and the company could be about something, and you have the talent that matches the requirements of the company, but are you even applying for that designation? You're applying for a different designation and you not have the skills, no matter how good you are at something else, that is not going to matter here. So, what are the qualities which are needed? So, just take a minute and probably think about the qualities which would be required. Okay. Of course, one is that how you behave with people. That's okay. With your peers. Basic. These are very basic things which are expected out of you. So, how do you dress? Okay. So, like in schools, you have uniforms, right? In schools, you have uniforms, and then even certain professions, they have a certain uniform which must be strictly adhered to. But in your particular domain that you're applying, does it have a dress code? If not, then how do you dress is left at your discretion. There would be very sketchy guidelines about it. So it is left totally at your discretion, and it is very follow. It is very important that you follow whatever is expected. You take the hint, and you do not let anybody have that opportunity to pinpoint something, right? No, because you have to spend very long hours at work, and it can often get very, very uncomfortable to be in a certain. So you might dress up very sincerely and very professionally, but then you have to also understand that your comfort will be important there. So you need to create a balance between both, that you're comfortable at the same time you're following the protocols, and also how you dress will reflect your level of involvement and your level of professionalism for that particular role that you have, right? So that becomes important. So one would be your dress code that you're following there, your dressing sense, your attire. Second would be how do you communicate with your peers. See, communication is something that you cannot really avoid working on. It's a lifelong process. No matter which field you are in, communication is very important to strike a good rapport with your colleagues, with your subordinates, with your seniors, right? So, and how you communicate also shows how you think. So that needs to be, that subconscious process needs to be mastered upon. And in order to make your what you speak, in order to make it um, very full of content, you need to understand it. To make it substantial, subtle, you need to understand and gather more information on any topic that you would like to have an expertise. Be it you can be it science, be it commerce, be it about education, any field that you're applying it, you need to have an expertise there, and you need to read a lot. That's one thing. Whether it is through newspapers, whether it is through books on that particular topic, the more you read, more ideas you have, and you can use the fertility of your mind to generate your own ideas. When you get one, you get 10 more ideas, right? So that's there. And what are the other things besides your clothing, your dressing sense, your communication? What are the other things that you need to look at? Like the third point that I mentioned, that you need to have an expertise on your subject matter. Okay, so you need to stay updated. You have to constantly upgrade yourself there, and think of a few other things and write it down, that you think are important. How you behave there is, like I mentioned, that you need to have a certain comfort level. You communicate, how you put somebody at ease. How do you pass on something? It could be something as small as handing over a paper, okay, or sending an email. How you type that email. So here also communication is taking place. Maybe not verbal, maybe it's textual, maybe it's written in written form, but how you type your emails, that also becomes important here, right? And how to write a profile of another person using dues or hints which are given. So let's say this, like we tried to do that with Bill Gates. That paragraph is given in your book. So you can look at your textbooks, and you can look at how we did that exercise, right? So you can try doing this more, because that will help you. Um, that will help you develop a skill on a comfort level on talking about the skills of a particular person. So, as like I said in the previous session, that it is slightly difficult for us to talk about ourselves. One might feel a little inhibited, because we think that how do we how do we praise ourselves. It is, I mean, the other person should not take us as somebody who's exaggerating. So modesty comes in play here. But modesty is not good at, when you're sitting in the interview and all that. It's also not good enough to it's also not good to exaggerate what you are or what you do. So a fake resume is a very bad idea. Okay, so that's another thing that you can look at: resume, CV, how to prepare them, what are they really expecting, because that is going to be your first introduction to them. So, how to write? So, when you start writing profile for other people, then it becomes more and more easy to understand that what works and what does not in that particular field. So, let's say you are applying for a certain section, certain sector. Pick up. Let's say if you are applying for the post of a scientist in a particular organization, then pick up the profiles of a few scientists, few famous scientists, few all right scientists, okay, and then write, uh, probably write an introduction, write a profile for them, and see what are the good things that you can pick. Let's say pick few average profiles, and then you have to see what are they. When you do that, when you try to locate the positive points in those profiles, like for example, when you pick up a profile which is which is quite a who is quite a popular person, like Bill Gates, or then you had Sania Mirza in another exercise. So when you talk about these profiles, they're already veterans in their field, right? So it is very easy to write profiles for them. But now we are talking about picking up profiles of people who might not have so many feathers to their cap. So how do you write the profiles for them? So let's say if you are going to pick up these profiles, then you also develop that insight into others' personalities. You can see what works for them, what doesn't, and you know that there are psychosomatic tests also. So you can also look at how that works and start understanding. And the more you work on these profiles, you'll understand what is the mindset of an employer. So you start profiling others, then you profile yourself. Pick five people from your field, profile them, 10 people, then you start creating a profile. That would have given you enough understanding and expertise in creating profiles. So that's there. So you can have minimum hints and you don't know this person and still you are able to do it. Then obviously you know yourself so well you'll be able to write better for yourself, right? Now, so when you read the profile of a successful person and understand the qualities which are required, you also understand what are the things that you lack and you need to work on. Right? So vocabulary related to personal, social, professional, business. Now here we talk about the terms which I spoke about in the introduction part. That you need to look at the terms which are important to understand personal, social, professional, business terms, things which convey what you want to say more emphatically, right? So when it comes to professional language, try practicing how to write emails, okay, and also how to send text messages, because sometimes people tend to use very short forms which are not even recognized. Okay, so the internet language. So you have to look at the trend. If there are certain things which everyone in the office is in your particular office is following. For example, if you are typing BBL, be back later, if it's something that is being used by everybody there, then it's comfortable because people understand it, they're familiar with it. But if you're going to use some other internet, abbreviation or something that you're just created and you expect people to understand that I've used these three letters and they should get it, that's not going to happen. Okay, so you are not supposed to make people uncomfortable. Like you type three letters and say that I said this, I told you, and the person is like, what does this even mean? So you have to be careful that you only using. Look at the office trends, and if certain words are commonly used, then only, or certain abbreviations are commonly used, then only use it. Okay. Otherwise, try to stick to typing good words, because it's always safe to be on the safe side. Also, emails can also are also considered a form of record. in any organization. So you would not want to take risks there by using, short forms or anything which can be construed as something else. So try to stick to complete words as much as possible, and unless it's a very recognized abbreviation. That would be my suggestions, but you can always be flexible about it, looking at the environment of your particular workplace, right? And this was how you communicate with your peers, with your seniors, with your subordinates. But we are also talking about the terms which are very specific for your industry. That also you need to, and that will happen only when you keep on reading on your profession, keep yourself updated and upgraded. Then it will so happen that you will be aware of certain terms that everybody in your industry will know. Maybe maybe not somebody who's outside your industry, but people who are well-read in your industry will know. And if, let's say, if you receive a certain communication from any of your seniors or anybody, you should be able to understand it. It should be like that you lost, right? Yeah, so that situation should not arise. And how do you answer questions? Okay, and we talked about emails, we talked about SMS, sending SMS, or other forms of communication, which are internal mode of communication used in offices. So besides that, how do you frame your sentences? For this, again, you need to come back to communication skills and practicing, and also writing skills as well. Because if you practice question writing, question answers writing, and writing skills, then it becomes very, very easy for you to work on it. So you need to do certain amount of research, which is quite important. Now, okay, so competitor analysis. What do I mean by this? So you need to look at the company that you're applying for. First of all, the research part is important, right? You research on the you research for the company or the industry that you're applying for. After that, what you need to do is that you understand where are other people coming from, okay, for that particular designation. So first you work on the industry, okay. Second, you work on the market trends. Third, you work on the profile of the company and its stakeholders. All right. Next, you have to uh, look at your particular designation. What are the skills required? That's very, very important, most important, right? And what is being expected out of you. Also, after that, you also look at the um, kind of competition, not exactly be threatened by it, but it's always good to have a healthy competition in the sense that, if it works as a motivation, only if it works as a motivation. Then you can also look at the kind of profiles that would be applying for this, and do you also there could be any particular skill that somebody else has, and that's something that's an additional thing that they are looking for. So you need to look at all the kind of crowd that applies, the kind of skills that people have, and probably be familiar with it. If it's a short term skill, you can also learn it, right? So that your resume is also better, and you're more help. You are more indispensable to the company that you apply for. So that's competitor analysis is important. I have like this is just a general graph sort of thing for an example. You can look at how you can. So now when I talk about this competition, this is not for the people who will be applying, because you don't know them and you don't have to worry so much about them. But the industry or the company that you apply for, you have to look at the competitors that the company and that the organization has. Okay, because if it is related to business, okay, and if you it's a corporate sector, then they would definitely want to grow, and to grow they would definitely want to have products or services which are better than their competitors. So you don't only research on that particular company, on that industry, you also look at the market trends and the kind of competition that they are facing, because that is going to be a weak nerve, right? You look at the things where they probably lack, and where their competitors who are doing better than them, what are they doing? So this will definitely give you an upper edge if you have done this much of research and studies to understand that. This also shows your inclination to help the company grow, the organization that you want to be a part of. So they see you as an asset because this person doesn't believe in individual missions. That mission, this person believes in mutual growth and to make his or her company or his or her employers um, asset grow. So this person is himself or herself an asset to the organization, right? All right. So, write significant observation between the company and its competitors, and write similarly, write few observations why a company should choose you over other candidates. Okay, because if you're going to put yourself out there, then you do it properly. It's better that you do it properly, and after you have done all that profiling and after so much of work, you'll be able to put yourself out there more confidently, not only on the paper but also when you sit and when you communicate with them. uh, all right, so you also need to do the industry analysis, right? Like I mentioned earlier, how do you do the industry analysis? The points to remember are qualities which are necessary at workplace, right? How to behave at workplace. Write a profile of another person using hints, and you read the profile of another successful person and use the vocabulary. So you need to add your references here when you prepare this analysis. And if you come from a background where you already have some comfort level, some idea, you've already done studies over this, then it would not be very very difficult for you to do this, right? So that's something that you can work on. What are icebreakers? So it so happens that it is also required in your personal life as well, or social chit chat or anything that you do. So if you're sitting in a particular situation, how do you start a conversation? That icebreaker is a very difficult part. So let's say, obviously, you do not start with any of the controversial topics, right? You do not want to, because you do not know what is the person's orientation regarding anything. So when you're meeting strangers or when you're sitting in a professional or semi-professional environment, you do not start a very random topic or a very controversial topic because you do not want to get in trouble. You do not want to offend the sensibilities of the other person because you are not already familiar with the sensibilities of the other person, right? So it is always better to tiptoe around the topics that you choose, but at the same time, there has to be a certain warmth. A smile goes a great way. I mean, you don't have to overdo it, but a smile is a good way to start. And then you probably could, just start with a certain topic. Icebreakers, again, you need to look at that particular situation. Okay, so let's say if you're traveling in a metro, then how do you start? Okay, you don't start talking about bad mouthing other people in the metro. You start by talking about probably, okay, what station would be, and it has to be a genuine question. Like, do not ask something which is very obvious because the person would find it a little weird. So this is a situation from daily life, general life. Let's say if you're sitting outside the interview board, how do you network there? Because it's always a good idea to network. You might not get it there, then these people you are in touch with, they could tell you what are the other opportunities which might come. So you do not have to just get disheartened with one place. You have to try and look at the other options which exist. And it's always a good idea to carry a notepad along, so that if you find anything anywhere which is relevant, so create a small diary, and you know that these information are not here and there, and you have to look for them later. Just keep it at one place. Keep a small diary always, and even if you are traveling, even if you are having fun, if you find some opportunities can come knocking your door anytime. You are not prepared for it always, but this is a good way to be prepared, right? So this is what you can do outside the interview board. And even if you go inside the interview board, remember that you have to leave a good impression. I mean, it's not like if you don't get a job there, then you go and fight with anybody, because you might be called later on if your conduct has been good, if your performance has been good, if you have the caliber. So maybe in that particular situation, somebody else is chosen. That's all right, because you never know. You can be called again. They will have you in mind as a good candidate. So be in the good books if it is something that you really want to do. Okay? So now, industry analysis, what are the things that you need to do in the industry analysis? You need to look at the, let's say, if you're applying for a particular company, you look at that industry, take five um, companies that are doing well in that area. Look at the things which work for them, create a graph, look at the trends that have gone. Okay, I'm sure you know how to create market trends and everything, how to research and that. If not, go on YouTube, go on internet, find the ways to, research on that. And icebreakers, like I was saying, that if you're sitting for an interview, that's a good place because all of you are in a similar situation. Now, there also some people might not be comfortable talking because they're too nervous about, whatever is going on, and they want to be at peace. So you see if you want to, and if you want to do that, you go ahead and do it, but don't start a communication unnecessarily. But if you see that there is a lot of time, there is a scope, there are people who are willing to communicate, who are not looking for peace, then you probably interact with them and try to um, break the ice. And you might do it by asking, okay, so what time is this going to? How much time is each interview taking? For example, and just give an example. Okay, so what do you think is approximately the time that each candidate is taking? Okay. And has anybody come out? What are the questions that were asked? That's also something that the candidates who have gone before. It's not a bad idea to be mentally prepared for those kind of questions. Okay, if it does not stress you out, then you can probably do that. So you can look at similar questions, and when you've done so much of research on your field, topics, on your expertise, on the company's expertise, then you probably have a lot that you can discuss, and so that's something that you can do. Pictorial representations are a great way to memorize ideas. So let's say if you're going to do some research on your field, and it's not some research, it's a lot of research. So if you're going to do that, and you have to give that much time to prepare because you're competing with many hardworking people. So you have to work well, um, take interest in it, understand it, enjoy the process, and then look enthusiastic. See, it's not just about coming with a lot of knowledge and a lot of information and data in your mind. It is also important that in the interview board you appear as somebody who is highly interested, who has done it out of passion, not just out of the requirement to crack the interview. So the field, whatever field you apply for, you have to be pretty good with it and passionate about it, and it will reflect in the way you talk, right? But also be attentive, be mindful that when you talk in the interview board, you do not um, speak out of turn. Okay, just because you're excited and you're passionate about that topic doesn't mean that you have to overdo it or you have to. And even if that is not your intention, maybe you're just passionate about that particular topic and you'd like to talk, but you have to be constantly mindful that you are in a situation where you are scrutinized. Without getting overwhelmed with that situation, you have to be mindful of what you are going to speak, how much are you going to speak, what is the person sitting before you expecting, how much time should you speak for. All these things have to be taken in consideration, and whatever few minutes you are inside, you have to be very mindful of your action, your behavior, and your body language and everything. All right. So that's there. Now, how do you prepare problem statements? So let's say you create, okay, so these pictorial representations that you create, these would be very helpful for you to memorize so much when you're sitting in the interview board. Think of it yourself, if you have so much information and most of the things that they are going to ask, you will have an answer for it. It's not necessary that how you have performed in your degrees that will matter in the interview board as well. Of course, it will give you an upper edge. Of course, it will be an impressive thing to begin with. But eventually, what they are looking for is people that they can employ, okay? Not people who can study, people who they can employ on the basis of your employability level. So your employability, let's say if it's a designation which requires you to study and research, then definitely they are going to look for that. If it is a designation, if it is a position that requires a certain specific skills, a certain specific skill, and then you need to look at what they are looking for. Then maybe you research very well, you prepare very well for your interview. Doesn't mean that you're going to perform as well, right? So in cracking the interview is just a beginning to what is going to come. So once you've cracked the interview, but of course, this is the important part to even get and show that you perform well. So that's there. Now, what you can do is you can write few specific company problems here. Okay, prepare a paper like one. You have see first you have prepare these two charts where we do a competitor analysis, like the competition for the company, that is most important. And then you also look at the things that the people who are competing for the same jobs might have and you don't, and you can work on those things. I mean, you do not have to get threatened by the competition. You can work on those skills, take short-term courses, add that to your resume and also to your skills, not just to the resume. Okay. So specific, significant observation, and of course, you need to understand what are companies' pain points. Okay, what are they trying to work on? What is that they are looking for? And that you'll understand when you look at the other competitions, and then you create this kind of a pictorial representation in this form or any other form that you're comfortable with, where you talk about the qualities which are necessary at workplace. I mean, no, these are the points that you should remember later on. But in industry analysis, you look at the statistics, okay? And the data that is available that helps you understand the reviews which are available, okay? And the reviews not of just the consumers but also that of the, and this is very important when you apply for anything, you have to also look at the employees experience there, and not just go by one or two employees because they could have had bad experiences, and it could be a different situation for them altogether. Look at overall employees satisfaction level. So if it is a life which is fulfilling, which is good overall, it is a good work environment, okay, a good work culture, then such an environment and culture will help bring out the best from you as well. So always talk to the ex-employees as to why they left. They might have a lot of bad experience, so it is also a good idea to talk to the current employees, okay, because anybody who left might have had some other you know intentions, some other issues, and it's not necessary that it would always be the company's fault or the employer's fault. So you cannot really trust the version, a one-sided version. So don't only talk to the ex-employees. Of course, it is important to talk to them because they can tell you the difference between their experience of working in that particular company and now wherever they are working or wherever they had worked earlier. So talking to them is pretty important, but at the same time, you also talk to the current employees who are there, who have stayed there long term, who are happy, who are still working there in the short term and are happy. Talk to them, see, take alternative perspective, and then you see that is it a work culture that aligns with your own preferences in life or your lifestyle, or is it going to be a long-term promising venture that you want to get into? All right. So prepare that kind of industry analysis. Okay. And then the problem statements, like I said, that write few specific company problems. What are the problems of the company? And very important that you understand the selection criteria in an interview. All right. So let's say the selection committee has certain particular areas of concerns. Yeah, you have done your research. You understand that this is what the company is looking for. But the employers get an idea on their profile. If you, I mean, if you do not know who are sitting in the interview board, then obviously that's a different thing. But if you know that these are the people who are going to be there in the interview for sure, then look at their profiles, look at what they are expecting, look at the profiles of other people who are working there, or other important people who are working there, and who have a great role to play in all this decision making. So you need to understand the selection criteria in the interview, and also you can get help by the people who went to take the interview before you. So other than that, what you can do is that practice answering some FAQs. What are FAQs? Frequently asked questions. So you might get it on the internet, you might get it from people. If not, you can create a page and ask people to contribute to that, right? Tell people from that industry that could you tell what are the interviews. In fact, you could probably do it while you're sitting, or if you're sitting outside, just take everybody's email ID and or whatever you need, account, create some account, and everybody can post their questions. Everybody can give their insights on what was their experience with the interview, or what they understood, what were they, whether it's people who were selected or who were not selected. But everybody could share their insights. Most of the times, people will complain or blame the company for not choosing them or not having the right. Right measure to judge someone. But the thing is that maybe you were right in the sense that you were probably more qualified in the field that you were applying, and the other person might not be that qualified. But it is also possible that, and very possible that, the person has certain other traits which are also required as additional virtues, okay, additional benefits to the company. So you might lack those, but maybe this other person had it. So you need to look into that rather than just blaming, okay, and try to incorporate those those abilities, those skills that's there. So practice answering some FAQs, that will give you a lot of idea. Yeah. Now write a specific company problem that you can resolve. Identify the skills that need to. So now that you have spoken about what the company requires, you understand that, you show that you understand what they need, but do not show it in an arrogant way. That is going to bruise egos. So do not come across as somebody who's very haughty about all the research that they have done, or the knowledge that you have about the company, because you're still not a part of the internal system. So you might not know as well as they do, or you might, but you only need to show as much as required. So understand the selection criteria in an interview, practice answering some FAQs, write a specific company problem that you can resolve. Okay, and identify the skills which are needed. Now, once you have understood the problem, now you have to offer the solution. Understanding the problem is one milestone, but being able to resolve those problems are more important. That's another milestone that you need to uh, do. So identify the skills which are needed, and you see whether when you're in the preparatory stage, you look if you have all the required skills which are needed. And communication, like I said, it is required everywhere. So, and it always helps you grow. So, you work on your communication skills and prepare vocabulary inputs. So, earlier we talked about how it is important to have certain vocabulary while you are in a particular workplace or in a particular work environment. But now we are talking about the solution. So, like I said, that first you have to diagnose the problems, understand the problem. Now you need to come up with a solution to resolve that problem. So getting stuck with the problem is not the solution. So you need to look at the solution. So let's say um, if there are words that you need to, like we talked about how we need to have certain vocabulary um, which are required, which are very specific to that work situation. So you need to prepare those in advance. Go on the internet again or buy a book where you have all that particular particular thesaurus dictionary, where you could look at all those words, look at the words which are in usage. Look on the internet, what are the things which are available, what are the trends which are going on. Even you have to look at the market trends, and you also have to look at the language trends which are going on. Okay, so what is accepted, what is not accepted. So next is familiarize yourself with new interview formats. So communication skill for we have understood. Now familiarize yourself with new interview formats. So like you know that in past few years a lot has changed. Even people who were very camera shy. Now everybody has to be on screen or has to do Zoom meeting and stuff. You know, people were not comfortable with video calls and all. But it has become a mode of work, so everybody has to do it. You can't say that I'm not comfortable with the camera, so I'm not gonna, come because you have to work. You cannot skip it, and that's a very comfortable, convenient way to communicate. So obviously, you need to develop a certain comfort level with technology. It shouldn't be like when you start something, then you're not able to figure it out. So other thing is talk to people who have faced similar interviews. That's also very important. You need to look at the kind of questions, of course, but also the kind of problems that they face when communicating. So it could be something as small as somebody did not carry a certain document, or it could be as big as somebody not carrying a certain medicine which they might have needed. So it could be water. Okay. So they could be small and big things, or they could tell you something about the environment. There's something that there is something that is missing there, something that you must prepare in advance, which they did not. So it's always a good idea to talk to people who have faced similar interviews. Now, how you can again how to systematize. See, when you are going to do so much of research, so much of work, it is always how do you contain all that in your mind. That's important. How do you contain all that information in your mind? So the way to do is it by creating all these graphs and these flow charts and everything that I've shown you. This will help you recall it at the right time. Okay. So the whatever solutions that you're proposing, you can probably create a template like this and write down whatever is the problem first, and what is the company expecting, and how do you plan to solve it. So you see three columns. First, we'll write the problem. Okay, for let's say first problem, then second problem, third problem, fourth problem. Before the first problem, you write um, what is the company expecting for this problem. Okay, and in the next column, right, how do you propose to resolve this problem? What is the solution that you have, and how can you implement that? All right. So this way you can prepare a chart which has almost three, four problems. So when you organize all these information, data, statistics, your ideas, thoughts, your expectations, your offerings, when you organize it on paper, when you organize it on flowcharts or on your system anywhere, then it also gets organized in your own head. Okay, and when it's organized in your own head, then your manifestation of it through words is much more coherent. So what you speak comes across as organized thought, and not that it's all scattered over various places in your mind, in your head. So this is how this is going to help. Okay? Now you could also get recommendations. Recommendations are very important when it comes to creating a network. So recommendations are important in terms of how much you deserve. Um, what is what is the remuneration that you can charge that is impacted by the recommendations that have been made on your part, and then it helps you grow. Okay, so if first recommendations or any kind of good feedback that you have from anybody, do not fall short, or do not be shy about collecting those, because recommendations will help create a more reliable, a more believable sanctioning to your own ideas, or to your own expertise that you are claiming to have. When somebody else also approves of them and gives you a sanctioning like that, it makes it more believable to the employer. So you can, the business recommendations or the employability recommendations that you get, it will impact your remuneration. You can demand a certain amount that you think that you deserve rightfully. Then it can also help you grow professionally, because in the the hierarchy ladder that can, it can help you there. And third is that it will also help you navigate better, because you have a certain network that you are creating. If somebody is giving you a recommendation, I have taken so much time to write you a recommendation. That means they value you and you value them. Okay? So it strengthens your bond with them. And also the network that you create when you have people from diverse um, fields, creating that level of believability for the employer, for you. Then the network that you create with all these people, due to that bond of trust, okay, and trust that this person is going to ensure perfection, and this person is going to ensure productivity in the output that they'll provide after their employment, is also creating a network for you of a network of trust among all these people who are connected, getting connected through that. Okay, so this also, recommendations become important for all these factors, for creating a trust bond, for financial growth, for growth in terms of designation, in terms of your professional caliber. Okay, you get better opportunities, and also it helps you navigate better. Okay? So let's look at all those things that we have covered today. So exploring the job market, we do the candidate analysis, we did industry analysis, we talked about the objectives that are there, and we covered reading comprehension, right? And we understood how reading is important for us, how it helps us have better ideas, and whatever specific field that you are passionate about. Okay, how it shows, how it creates an understanding for the audience that you have, or for the employers, or for the interview board, that you are really passionate about this particular topic. So that is how it is important. And reading, and then you look at the vocabulary, the words which are specific to that particular field. How do you work on them? You write them, you create sentences. Okay, and then listening, how it is very important to be good listener while our attention span is going down. Okay, and while you speak, how flowcharts, how these data, how these pictorial representations, they are helping you organize the thoughts in your head, so that you are able to present them more coherently when you're speaking before a lot of people who are scrutinizing you. So despite being in the spotlight, you are able to put forth your ideas in a meticulous manner. So this becomes very important there. And then we'll talk about grammar in the next session, and also about how do you fill a questionnaire, how do you brainstorm an idea, and how does it help out everybody. Okay, now this blog, we also talked about the overview of the units. Okay, and how do you search for the advertisements. That's also another very important thing that we are going to cover next time. Due to the positive time, I'm going to stop here, but we are going to look at the advertisements also, because what you search will take you to the, will let you know if that is a good field to apply, what kind of job that you are searching for, that will ensure. So how do you, now we have thought about how, now we have, today we have talked about how do we organize the ideas, thoughts, how do we represent them, how do we communicate it to the interview board, or to anybody, to our subordinates, to our seniors. How do we communicate our thoughts? What is the right way to do that? What is the right protocol to do that? How do we research on a certain job profile, whether it is about industry, it is about market. So that was another thing. And third thing is, how do we talk about the problems? All right. So, and how do we offer the solutions to those problems? So, all right. Thank you.